So, said another way, we know we're going to have our $1 million of savings in the first 10 years, and rates would really have to be much higher than they historically have been for us not to be happy the second 10 years of the loan.
Well, I'm sure a lot of us remember the 70s.
Sir?
Kyle, I said, I'm sure a lot of us remember the 70s.
It's true. It's true.
Okay.
And so on page 3, you look at the cash flows of it. And over the first 10 years, you see the roughly $115,000, $120,000 of savings per year. And that's how we get to our roughly $1.1 million over the first 10 years. The second half of the loan, sort of shaded in that tan there, that's the portion that would be subject to the rate reset. But again, as you look at that historically, the rate would have to be historically very high in order for us to not be happy. And I think another important point there is you've got an ability when you get to that 10-year period or before to kind of work with that structure if you need to based on rates at the time.
Can you stay here on this page for a second?
Yep.
Just to make sure we understand.
Sir?
The table we have in front of us is prior bond debt service, series 2002 bonds.
Yep,
That's basically what I'm paying now,
that's correct.
$677,000 and change.
That's correct.
And if we go with the BB&T, it'll be $558 and change.
That's correct.
So that's where you get $119,000 each year, or that year, and then it goes down and up a little bit,
Yeah.
but in that neighborhood for all.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yep, you're right on. And so where we're heading from here, there's a time schedule that on the next page. If you generally like what you hear tonight, the plan would be to come back to your next board meeting with an actual resolution, answer any questions that you may have, let you take formal action at that meeting. We then need to hit an IDA meeting, just because that's sort of the legal conduit in terms of how these are financed. And we look to close.
We're EDA now, but that doesn't
Yeah, I'm
make
sorry,
a difference.
EDA, IDA, yeah, apologies. And then we'd look to close basically by the end of the month or thereabouts, if indeed you're willing.
Okay.
And so with that, I'll answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, these are refinancing things. I was just looking at again, that same table. The principal is higher with BB&T, which is kind of what you were saying, right? Instead of paying $255 in principal now, our principal would jump up to $280. But the reality is the interest is $422 now, and that would go down to $278.
You got it.
That's where our real savings is purely in interest, but realistically, we're paying more principal, but because the rate's so much better than what it was then,
Yeah, that's right.
we come out of net
That's right.
savings.
Yeah, the increase in principal is really just nominal in terms of sort of cost of issuance. It's far outweighed by bringing the interest rate from 5% down to 270.
Okay. And that holds true until we reset it, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the reset is, that was my comment of we all remember the 70s. It was 18, 20%.
It's true.
22 or something like that.
It's true.
Wasn't a good time. Well, it was because I was younger, but that could happen.
Could theoretically happen. And I think the counterpoint to that is you've got some ability, both with the prepayment and just in terms of the debt structure, that if indeed we end up at that period, nobody really foresees that, but nobody's got a crystal ball.
Right.
We've got some ability to kind of work with that. We're not stuck, per se, with this given debt structure if we do indeed end up in a situation like the 70s.
So yeah, but that's the thing now. We're going to make a decision in the next month that's based on something that's going to happen 10 years from now.
Mm-hmm. But knowing that for the next decade, you're going to have your $1.1 million or thereabout of savings locked in. So as you kind of look at your various decision points, you could stay where you are now and continue paying 5%. You could, we've looked in here at doing a public debt issuance That's a possibility. Interest rate-wise, it doesn't look as attractive, and we wouldn't really know what that rate is until a couple months down the road when we eventually sold those bonds. There's a lot more cost and sort of mechanics into doing that. So you're right. We don't have complete certainty over the entire term of the financing. What we do know is we kind of look at the different options you have. You could stay where you are at 5%, which doesn't seem to make much sense to us. Or we could take what we know is our $1.1 million of savings in the next 10 years, knowing we're going to have to kind of watch things over the balance of the loan, interest rate-wise.
And then we'd have the ability, or the board will have the ability in that first 10-year term to look and say, oh, it's going up to 4, 5, 6. We'll be able to refinance it for a fixed rate at any point in that 10 years?
Yes, sir. The way the loan could be set up, BB&T has given us two options, but one of the options is to have the ability to effectively prepay the loan on any payment date, which isn't complete prepayment flexibility, but it's pretty darn close in terms of you've got the ability at any time, starting at closing, any semi-annual payment date, you typically make payments twice a year on it, to be able to refinance it, pay it off, and term it out with something else.
So I would, at year 8, I'm scared, I think the rates are going to go up high. I actually pay off the entire loan?
You could.
Yeah, I'm saying
Yeah,
that's...
you could refinance it with somebody else.
Right,
With
right.
BB&T, you could pay it off.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do have one.
Mr. Taylor?
And this kind of goes back to a part of your first presentation.
Sir.
You said something to the effect that our total debt should be somewhere around 4% of the
assessed value.
total asset. Okay. What does this do? And we don't have a choice. Obviously, we have to do this or something. But what does this do to that 4%?
In terms of 4%, it doesn't really impact it because all we're really doing is trading higher rate debt for lower rate debt. So there's really no,
So that
doesn't really impact it. If anything, it helps that other ratio we talked about, the 10 to 15. It helps that a little bit.
Okay. That's all.
Any other questions? Does the board think this is something that would like to pursue? Considering, well, we always got a choice. Now, this is a good choice, but we always have a choice. Board wants to move forward through with this, and I don't think so. You gave us a schedule in here on page 4. So we're taking the presentation now. You have to actually go to the EDA. Is that when they meet next week, Gary? Oh, you can schedule, okay, so, all right.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, we'd be looking to come back to the next board meeting. We'd have to work out with
2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now, exactly. We'd have a resolution for you that Mr. Emerson and his colleagues could put together on the legal side, and then we'd work to get the EDA meeting in there, kind of when it worked.
Yeah. And April 16th is... We meet on the 8th. Okay. So we would be able to work the schedule out. We're just trying to see, our next board meeting is the 25th, and then we have a board meeting on the 8th of April, which is before you want to close on the 16th.
Yes, sir.
Okay. On this one, we'll take a motion if the board wants to move forward with the proposal by Davenport. And we have at any point in time until we actually sign the documents to say, oh, no, we don't want to do it. Okay. Is there a motion to move forward?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Akers, seconded by Mr. Black to move forward with the evaluation of Davenport's recommendation to use BB&T to refinance some of our existing debt from 2002. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Yeah, Mr. Akers made the motion, Mr. Black made the second. Motion carried unanimously. Agenda item number 10 is just the schedule for the board. Did you want to add something to it, or you're good? As part of the 2-on-2 meetings, Mr. Seeley had a question about the schedule at the high school construction projects, and they've submitted the schedule to us. It's in the board packet for everybody's viewing, and if there are any questions, we can go forward. Mr. Seeley, you ready with your question?
I just want to point out some things to fellow board members. One of the concerns I had, and you can look at these, there are 2 sheets for each project. So you've got the Caroline High School additions and renovations, and you've got athletic improvements, and then you've got the Madison Elementary School additions. And one of the things that I brought out at the 202, and I just want everybody to be aware, is the first project to start is the athletic fields and the track. And my concern, Mr. Underwood, my concern is that one of the things I talked about in our joint meeting a few weeks ago was we're marrying the old code to the new code at the high school in the front of the building and inside when we move everything forward. And my concern is, and they've assured me that, and they don't want to talk numbers because they said that it gives away to the contractor what we're looking for in terms of bids. But anything that we spend on those facilities ahead of the actual construction could mean we'd be short of funds in the actual construction. And I think we need to have a long discussion. I understand the problem with the track. I was on the school board when we had this track problem before. I'm a little apprehensive about spending money on the back in the fields before we tackle the building, which I think is probably going to be a bigger project than they realize until they start tearing stuff apart and moving it forward. But that's why I wanted the schedules. I sat through the school board meeting and watched these being presented, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So they gave us the schedules. They're in your packet, and I sort of underlined where construction was to begin. And when you look at the high school construction, you'll see that it doesn't start until 9/13/14. And you'll see that the construction on the fields actually starts 5/19/14. You know, Madison Elementary is one of those projects that can go on. It moves at its own pace, and it starts this summer, right after school's over. But I will say that I have concerns. I brought them up for the benefit of everybody of the discussion. This is sort of where I'm concerned. Again, we haven't worked out construction administration yet, or how that's going to be done, or who it's going to be. And I think those are all topics that need to be discussed. So that was sort of the long and the short of the discussion about construction and where it's at. They've got some other really good projects coming in terms of what they're going to be able to do for heating and cooling. I agree with them. Some of the energy saving stuff they're doing is going to be great. But the building construction itself, the building 77, they say they have complete plans, they have complete confidence. I've worked on my house too many times with complete confidence and ended up $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000 more than I thought on a $10,000 project.
What do you want us to do? Just purely information.
Mr. Chairman, I guess that I would really like to see us with a work session with the school board on this, as well as budget. Board to board, rather than an hour before the board meeting, because I don't think that's enough time.
We do have a 1-hour session board members will see in their packet that we're going to adjourn to the 25th for a 1-hour meeting with the school board. That was just to talk about the budget. There is conceivably a need for a full-fledged longer meeting. If that's what the board sees fit to do, we'll work it out. So we're gonna have this first meeting on 25th. We can schedule meetings again after that, if that's what the board would like to do. But for right now, the schedules are just for our own information, and we'll have a chance to talk to the school board in a couple of weeks about it. Any other questions? Mr. Cully, agenda item number 11 then would be yours.
We included for you the capital projects update and, of course, the calendar. You can see most of the capital projects are nearing completion, other than the radio system, although we're making progress on that. That has gone to what you would call construction. They're actually building the equipment, and it'll be staged up in Johnburg for some folks to go up and go through what's called an acceptance test of the infrastructure equipment. It's not the handheld radios, it's the infrastructure, the stuff that goes in the huts at each of the 6 tower sites and the stuff that goes in dispatch.
Johnburg is Chicago.
Chicago, sorry, north of Chicago, Motorola's factory. So that is moving forward, and most everything else is nearing completion. Don't forget we have the dedication of the YMCA at 1:30 on Friday, the 14th, which is this week. And you stole my thunder. We had the 5 o'clock meeting with the school board. We have to recess to on the 25th.
All right,
So-
forget I said that. Charlie just said it.
And certainly would you look at the calendar and see when might we'd be able to have a budget work session?
That's where we are.
One question about the radio system. Have we secured all the engineering for the towers to make sure that we're going to be up and on those without additional cost?
The only thing we're still lacking on a tower that I'm aware of is the water tower for Bowling Green,
At
Bowling Green, where we're doing some of the brackets and things. But I think all the other structurals have come back. There might be one structural we're waiting on for Beaver Dam, which is a Hanover tower, to make sure that there's not some strengthening that needs to be done on that. But for the most part, all of them are back. The leases are back. That's how we kind of know the number of what
Okay.
level we got to be. I'm not going to tell you we're 100% there, but we're real close.
Okay.
Okay, if everybody could take a quick look at their calendars just to see where we are on the budget work session. We meet the 25th to talk schools. Do we want to meet next week on maybe the 18th to go over the whole budget? Is that enough time to look at it the first go round?
That's next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday, a week
Yeah.
from today? The week of the 24th? We meet on the 25th with the school board, and then we can have a budget work session Wednesday, Thursday.
You've got meetings. You've got meetings, the
I do?
26th and the 27th now.
Yeah, you got constituents.
Unless you want to meet some other time other than
where
that
am I?
night.
Okay, well, you could do the budget work session. You could. I'm 6:30 to 8:30. I'm sure you'll be there for a while. All right, any other times? I was just wondering, where did you get my meeting from, but yes.
You
thank
told
you.
us earlier.
Duh. Want to do Wednesday the 19th?
That's good if everybody can do it. We're ready.
19th's good with me.
I get this alternatives analysis study for public. I think it's something Gary sent me. Gary, that's from you.
Is that night?
Alternative analysis? Well, okay.
The public hearing for the alternatives analysis is the 19th. At what time? 6 o'clock?
I got 5:30 to 7.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's transportation.
Right.
And
it's
Mr.
just-
Wilson could be at that,
Yeah.
and maybe somebody else, or I could show up at 5:30 to 6 and then be back here at 6. 19th
Where's
works?
it at?
Visitor Center.
Visitor Center.
Yeah, 6
23-724
o'clock.
Rogers Clark.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can get from the Visitor Center here in 5 minutes.
Scott will lead you.
If you ride with.
I can't? I can if you let me. Oh, so I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna make, it's like 10 minutes, so I could be there for 15, 20 minutes. We meet here at 6,
6:15?
6:15. You started exactly 6.
All right.
Okay, so we're gonna do the 19th.
And we're going to recess from here to the 19th.
We're gonna recess from here to the 19th, because that's gonna be before the 25th. At 6. In the conference room?
20,
It's,
the 19th.
we don't know yet. We set up in here last year, we set those tables up and microphones, and I can work
Whatever you have to do.
If you don't mind. I mean, we record better in here, but
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let's just do it. It
We're
worked out
gonna-
all right.
We're gonna, just audio record?
I mean, I think we have to pay, how much extra for the video? $350.
Audio record our work session, but video record the school work session, so we all know what's going on?
Okay.
Yep, I want
Okay.
to video this.
The 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock one.
Can we meet, could we meet here for that?
We could meet in here for that. We could just set tables up. Well,
We
that's
could
gonna
roll
be,
this to the side and then roll it to the center when we're done.
yes, cable's under here now.
No.
It's not as
Wait a
easy as
minute.
it used to be.
Wait a minute. The
We
meeting
could-
on the school board, the meeting with the school board's only going to be for...
An hour.
An
We
hour.
had figured that would be in the EOC.
I'm looking for a full-fledged school board.
But once you set that, we can probably set that up in here with tables.
Okay, that's the
Instead
one
of
I'm the
this.
most concerned
So
about.
we're gonna have that one on the 25th just to talk about the budget, where they are, where we are. It shouldn't be that long, and a couple of other things. We're gonna talk about testing, as the people said, and then we'll briefly touch on the construction schedule,
Okay.
and then we'll have a much longer meeting, if necessary. And you're saying it'll probably be necessary.
I'm thinking with the line in the sand that we saw that it'll be necessary.
Okay. So we'll go from where we are. Okay.
Get them to agree to it once you meet on the 25th.
All right, so we're going to stick budget work session, what's this on the 17th? Oh, never mind. Okay. Closing board comments. Oh, we are, the closed meeting is being removed. The closed meeting, it was to be Mr. Cully's performance review, and I did not remind the board members of that, so that is my fault. We are going to try to do that on the 25th. I'm going to ask Mrs. Hall, when she sends out the packet information, if you could put another copy in everybody's packet, just to make sure we got it. And we will do that on the closed meeting on the 25th. So there's no closed meeting tonight. Closing board comments, Mr. Taylor.
Yes, I do. I would like to announce that I'm proposing a Port Royal District meeting to be held on April 7th at Upper Caroline. And on April 23rd April the 14th at Port Royal, if those dates turn out to be, and I haven't finalized them yet. I just need to get authorization, but I wanted to get the word out as soon as possible. The other thing is just a comment. As far as the school testing program and the concerns that citizens had, and certainly as a parent and as an educator, I certainly understand that. I would just strongly suggest that citizens communicate with their school board member. And I know that it was stated that they had been to the school board meeting and maybe spoken at maybe the public comment section. But if there was a real concern, I think citizens should address it with their individual school board members, because those are the persons that we elected to office. And if there are policy issues with the school board, it has to be taken care of by the persons we put in place to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Black?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman, no comments. Thank you.
Mr. Underwood?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Akers?
No, sir.
Mr. Seeley?
None, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, and just my reminder again, more for me, the 26th in the community center and the 27th at the visitor center, I'll be having community meetings, and basically those are after the budget public hearing, so we'll have another opportunity to at least talk to me about the budget. And as I said to the folks in Milford, we're going to talk about that on the 26th. That was all I had, and we are now going to adjourn to, we're still saying 5 o'clock? We're saying 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
March, okay, this says adjourn to or recess, whichever one the lawyer wants to call, good. That's the 19th.
I'll make
6
a
o'clock.
motion that we continue until the 19th of March at 6
6
o'clock here at Community Services Building.
Here's good enough. Second, please? Second. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously, and we are recessed to, or adjourned to.
Whichever.